comment, follow, and I can go video. Oops. Hang on. There we go. One of these days I'm going to get it down just right. Hey, everybody. What's going on? Christine H. Moore, Certified Peer Recovery Coach. Thank you so much for taking some time to check out this broadcast. I am live on Haps, which is broadcasting to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and then I've got my TikTok family over here. Good evening, and God bless you as well. Where am I from? I am from the wonderful state of Texas. I was born and raised here. But yeah, today I've got an incredible message I want to share with you. And I titled it, This Wasn't Supposed to Happen. This wasn't supposed to happen. And I'm going to be reading from the Bible in Genesis 39. All I got to say is fasten your seatbelts and buckle up, because this is one of my favorite stories from the Bible. And I resonate with this story so much. And every time I read it, I'm able to get something different and new and fresh each time. And I want to read a little bit today. So this is kind of like a Bible study, but also a message, an inspirational message at the same time. But you guys, the Bible is not boring. It is not boring. There are some crazy, insane, better than any soap opera out there. Yeah. So let's just get right into it. So Genesis 39 is where I'm going to start, I think. No, wait. Genesis, hang on. 37, excuse me. Genesis 37. What am I doing? I am I'm going to be talking about my story, along with reading about the story of Joseph in the Bible and comparing it, and then talking about what do you do when life doesn't go your way, or when things don't go as planned, or, oh my gosh, this was not supposed to happen. What do I do now? Okay. So definitely, if this brings value, if you like it, definitely give it a like, comment, share it out. And that way more people will be able to see it and be blessed by it. Okay. So for those of you who don't know the story of Joseph in the Bible, in Genesis, or those who do know about it, I mean, I could read the story of Joseph over and over and over and still get something new each time. So before I read, let me just say a quick prayer, because I always like to bless the message before I start. So Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this opportunity to go live on social media and to share a message of hope. And Lord, as I get out of the way, I pray, Holy Spirit, that you would come in and use me, use my words, use this technology to be able to share your wisdom, your hope, your love, your word to those who are watching. I just thank you so much for what you're going to do and how you're going to inspire us to be able to move past anything that's been holding us down, or any kind of trauma that we've been through that keeps us stuck, that we will be set free, that we will be able to move forward and have purpose. We thank you for this. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen. All right, here we go. Genesis 37. So it is, here we go. So now Jacob, who is the father of Joseph. He loved Joseph more than all of his children because he had Joseph when he was much older. And he favored him. And he made him a distinctive multicolored tunic. So I'm sure you've heard the robe of many colors. But Jacob definitely favored Joseph. I believe he was the youngest, and he had many brothers. And Joseph had a gift of being able to interpret dreams. And Joseph, he dreamt that he was going to basically be a ruler. So he had a dream, and he went to his brothers, and he told his brothers the dream. And basically he says, "We brothers were binding sheaves of grain in the field, and lo, my sheaf suddenly got up and stood upright and remained standing, and behold, your sheaves stood all around my sheaf and bowed down in respect." His brothers said to him, "Are you actually going to reign over us? Are you really going to rule and govern us as your subjects?" So they hated him even more for telling him about his dreams. But Joseph, he dreamed still another dream, and he told it to his brothers. He said, "See, here I have again dreamed a dream, and lo, this time I saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon bowed down in respect to me." He told it to his father as well as to his brothers. But his father rebuked him and said to him in disbelief, "What is the meaning this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow down to the ground in respect before you?" So Joseph's brothers were envious and jealous of him, but his father kept the words of Joseph in mind, kind of wondering, I wonder what that was all about. So here we have Joseph, who is favored by Jacob, the father, and gives him a special robe of many colors. And the brothers are jealous. And then, so they're already jealous. And then he goes to them and he's like, "Hey, I had this dream, and you guys are basically going to bow down before me in the future." So that really didn't help his case very much, right? And so basically, here we have Joseph, who is favored, and he has a good life, right? He knows that God has a purpose and a plan, and that one day he's going to be a ruler. So I know from my life, when I was a child, I had a good upbringing, and I had a plan. I knew God had a plan as well, but I had a really good upbringing, and I had a lot going for myself. So I thought that I kind of had an idea of what my life was going to look like. Have you ever been that way, where you're like, I think I have a good idea of what life is going to be like? And thank you, everyone, for your comments. I appreciate it. And blessings to you, Cloud9. Good to see you again. So yeah, I mean, I had plans. I was going to have a good life. I was a Christian, and just, had a lot going for myself. And never in a million years did I think addiction would be an issue in my life, because there's no history of it in my family. I was a good girl. I mean, I grew up in church, and just I was a gymnast, a ballet dancer, a lot of discipline growing up. And so yeah, I had this whole plan that I was going to go to college and do gymnastics college, and then get married, have kids, or I don't know. But I just had this plan that I was going to have a good life. And so did Joseph. Okay. Then one day, Joseph's father asked Joseph to go and look for his brothers, because he hadn't seen them in a while. And he asked him to go into town and to check on them and to report back to him. So he was out wandering around, and a certain man found Joseph and saw that he was wandering and had lost his way in the field. So the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I am looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are, pasturing our flocks." Then the man said, "They were here, but they have moved on from this place. I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. And when they saw him from a distance, even before he came close to them, the brothers they plotted to kill him. And so let's see. So they planned on killing him. They said to one another, "Look, here comes that dreamer. Now then, come and let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. A wild animal," and then they'll say to their father that a wild animal killed and devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. Now Reuben, who was the oldest brother, heard of this and rescued him from their hands and said, No, let's not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Do not shed his blood, but instead," hold on, I just lost my place. He says, "Do not shed his blood, but instead throw him alive into the pit that is here in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him to kill him." He said this so that he could rescue him later and return him safely to his father. So Reuben had grace, and he had this plan of saving his brother. Now, when Joseph reached his brothers, they stripped him of his tunic, the beautiful robe of many colors that his father had given him. Then they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty, there was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat their meal. When they looked up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, east of the Jordan, with their camels. And so basically what happened is Judah said to his brothers, "What do we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood?" Murder, basically. "Come, let us instead sell him to the Ishmaelites and Midianites, and let's not lay our hands on him, because he is our brother and he is our flesh." Let's see. So his brothers listened to him and they agreed. Then, as the Midianite and Ishmaelite traders were passing by, the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and they sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And so they took Joseph as a captive into Egypt. So they were so jealous, they hated him so much, they wanted to kill their brother and then cover it up by saying, that he had been attacked and devoured by a wild animal. That's what they were going to tell their father. But then they waited, they ate, and they waited, and then instead they're like, "Well, what are we really going to gain if we kill our brother? Because he is our blood. He's our family. So instead, let's sell him. Let's sell him as a slave." And that way they could get rid of their brother. And then they covered it up by, let's see, where is it at? Verse 31. Then they took Joseph's tunic. They took the robe that the father had given him. They took his tunic, they slaughtered a male goat and dipped the tunic in the blood. And they brought the multicolored tunic to their father, saying, "We have found this. Please examine it and decide whether or not it is your son's tunic." He recognized it and said, "It is my son's tunic. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces." So Jacob tore his clothes in grief, put on sackcloth, and mourned many days for his son. Then all his sons and daughters attempted to console him, but he refused to be comforted and said, I will go down to Sheol, the place of dead, in mourning for my son. And his father wept for him. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the Midianite sold Joseph as a slave to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the royal guard. Okay, so when things don't go as planned, this was not supposed to happen. Joseph had a great upbringing. His father favored him and loved him deeply. He had this amazing gift of being able to interpret dreams, and he knew that one day he was going to rule over his brothers. And so he had this whole plan. He knew that God had a plan and a purpose, a destiny for him. But then all of a sudden, his brothers turn on him. They turn on him and sell him when things happen that weren't supposed to happen, right? So, okay, now Joseph, he finds himself, yeah, absolutely, they were afraid of him, for sure. So now Joseph finds himself being taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, who was the captain of the royal guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites. Okay, so he's been bought by Potiphar, who was an Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, who Pharaoh was the top of the top. Okay, he was the ruler. But the Lord was with Joseph, and even though a slave, became a successful and a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. I love that. Even though he was a slave, even though things didn't go as planned, and even though his brothers turned on him and did something so horrible, here God is still giving Joseph favor. Still. Now his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph pleased Potiphar and found favor in his sight, and he served him as his personal servant. He made Joseph overseer over his house, and he put all that he owned in Joseph's charge. It happened that from the time that he made Joseph overseer in his house and put him in charge over all that he owned, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house because of Joseph. Because of Joseph. So the Lord's blessing was on everything that Potiphar owned, in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left all that he owned in Joseph's charge. And with Joseph there, he did not need to pay attention to anything except the food he ate. I love that. I love that. Joseph had so much favor from God that because Joseph was in Potiphar's house, it caused Potiphar to be blessed. And he didn't have to worry because he put everything in charge with Joseph. So Joseph was a slave sold to Potiphar, and the Lord's favor was upon Joseph, and Potiphar saw that, and he's like, okay, you know what? Even though you're a slave, I'm going to put everything that I have and own under your care. Like, you watch over everything, right? I know, it is amazing. And so here I'm thinking, okay, so Joseph had a plan before he got sold as a slave, and he knew that he was going to be ruler, or he knew that God's purpose was going to prevail. Yet something bad happened, adversity, life happened, and he got sold, and he was betrayed by his brothers. So something bad happened, okay? So now he finds himself in favor with God. And even though sold as a slave, he's being blessed. He's finding uh, favor with God and with Potiphar. So I'm imagining he's probably thinking, well, now I'm living out my purpose. I mean, yes, something bad happened, but God turned it around, and here I am. I'm not a ruler, but I am serving high up. And I don't know. I wonder if he was thinking, well, now I'm living out my purpose. I don't know. It's just a food for thought. But I will make this point. While we are waiting on God, it is important for us to take our positions and stay faithful. Then, like Joseph, God will raise us up in his timing. So be faithful as you wait on God. Do your work well, and people will see that God's hand is upon you for good. So maybe you're in a season of your life where you're in a job that maybe is a little bit humbling, right? Whatever that position is, do it as though you are doing it for God, because you are. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you're in a position that is lower than what you're used to getting paid. Maybe you're finding yourself having to start all over again. Whatever position you are in, whatever season you are in, while you're waiting on God, it is important for us to take our positions and stay faithful. Stay faithful no matter what season God has you in. I know I think about, these seasons where I'm prospering, but I know that that's not how life works. We can't just go directly there. There's steps to get there. And God is wanting us to be faithful in each season he has us in, right? So let's continue. So Joseph is now in a good place. Then, adversity, life happens again. Here we go. I love this. This is like a good soap opera. Now, Joseph, he was handsome and attractive in form and appearance. So Joseph was fine. He was hot. He probably had a good body. And it says that then after a time, his master's wife looked at Joseph with desire. And she said, "Lie with me." So he's good looking, and Potiphar's wife is attracted to him. And she wants to get it on. She wants to get it on with Joseph. And here Joseph is in Potiphar's house, and Potiphar has entrusted Joseph with everything he owns, everything. And here Potiphar's wife has got the hots for him. Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh. But here in verse 8, but he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, with me in the house, my master does not concern himself with anything. He has put everything that he owns in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept anything from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great evil and sin against God and your husband?" Let's see. And so it was that she spoke to Joseph persistently day after day, but he did not listen to her plea to lie beside her or be with her. Then it happened one day that Joseph went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the men of the household were there. So this is the perfect opportunity for Potiphar's wife to come in and try and seduce him, right? So when she saw that oh wait, hold on one second. I skipped a verse. So she caught Joseph by his outer robe, saying, so she grabs him and she's like, lie with me, have sex with me. I want you, right? And because no one was in the house. So this was like her opportunity. But he left his robe in her hand and ran and got outside of the house. So she's holding on to his robe and saying, lie with me, have sex with me. And he's like, resisting her and like, get away from me. And like, basically she pulls his robe off and he runs out of the house without his robe. Then when she saw that he had left his robe in her hand and had run outside, she called to the men of her household and said to them, look at this. Your master has brought a Hebrew into the household to mock and insult us. He came to lie with me, and I screamed. When he heard me screaming, he left his robe with me and ran outside. So she left Joseph's outer robe beside her until his master came home. Then she told her husband the same story, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought among us came to mock me and insult me. Then, as soon as I raised my voice and screamed, he left his robe with me and ran outside the house. And when Joseph's master heard the words of his wife saying, this is the way your servant treated me, his anger burned. So Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. So he was there in the prison. But again, the Lord was with Joseph. Hey, Roxanne. The Lord was with Joseph and extended loving kindness to him and gave him favor in sight of the warden. So here we go again. So she totally set him up, totally. And so things are going pretty well for Joseph. He's ruler in the house, like Potiphar gave him everything to look over everything. And then temptation comes. So Potiphar's wife had the hots for Joseph and tried to seduce him, and he refused. And so she did. She set him up, and then she lied about it and said that he was trying to mock her and have sex with her. And this really made me think about the part of my story where things did not go as planned. And I was in a treatment center, and 4 days before I graduated from the program, my husband served me with divorce papers, and I found out I lost custody of my kids. And that was some major adversity. And when I look back now, back then I didn't really understand why that was happening, because I was working really hard at trying to get clean. But you know what? If I'm being completely honest, it just had not become painful enough for me to change. It had just not become painful enough. And so that gift of desperation was given to me. The gift of desperation was given to me. And my point here is that sometimes God allows things to happen in the pit to get us to move. It finally became too painful. And the adversity that happened to me was, wake up, Christine, get your butt going, do what you need to do, surrender and get your life together, do the work of recovery. I'm giving you the gift of desperation instead of you going and dying from another overdose. Wake up. And so it's kind of like the same thing happened here. So here we go again. Another adversity hits Joseph. And he went from Potiphar's house. I'm sure it was absolutely beautiful. I'm sure that he was very blessed. It even says that God found favor, or he found favor with God again. And then boom, he finds himself now from a slave, now he's in prison. Wow. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. So now he's in prison. But I love this. Verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph and extended loving kindness to him and gave him favor in the sight of the warden. So even though life hits, adversity hits, and you find yourself in the pit or being betrayed, my friends, just like the Lord was with Joseph, he is with you. He is with you. He has always been with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. It might feel like he's not with you, but I promise he is. Call on the name of the Lord and he will answer you. All right, so let's keep moving forward here. So he's in prison, but the Lord is with him and gives him favor with the warden. Okay. The warden committed to Joseph's care management of all the prisoners who were in the prison, so that whatever was done there, he was in charge of it. Can you imagine going to prison, but then being put in charge of it? Like, how interesting is that? So he found favor with the warden, and the warden put him in management of all the prisoners of the prison, so that whatever was done there, he was in charge of it. The warden paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's care because the Lord was with him. Whatever Joseph did, the Lord made to prosper. I just love that. I love that. I'm going to read this one part. This is not part of the Bible. It's just a little side note from Joyce Meyer. So Joseph had been unjustly accused and imprisoned, but the Lord was with him and showed him mercy and grace. In Genesis 39, 20 through 23, we see that God gave him favor in the eyes of the prison warden, who basically put Joseph in charge of running the prison. Even in the dismal circumstances of incarceration, the Lord caused Joseph to prosper. God's favor is also available to us, his children. But like many other good things in life, the fact that something is available to us does not mean that we will ever partake of it. The Lord offers us many things that we never enjoy because we do not activate our faith to receive what he has provided. Favor is actually a part of grace. In the English New Testament, the word grace and the word favor are both translated from the same Greek word charis. I think I'm saying that right. So the grace of God is the favor of God. So the grace of God is the favor of God, and the favor of God is the grace of God, that which causes things to happen in our lives through the channel of our faith. It is the power of God doing something for us that we do not earn or deserve. So for example, if you ask someone, can you do me a favor? You are asking that person to do something for you that you have not earned or paid for. You are depending on that individual's goodness to manifest in the form of a blessing, even though there is no natural reason for that person to extend it to you. God wants to give you favor, just as he did Joseph. But in order to receive that favor, it's necessary to follow Joseph's example and believe God for it. Joseph maintained a good attitude in a bad situation, and his faith attitude led to God's favor. Expect God's favor and keep your attitude of faith in every situation you face. So let's try to be like Joseph, and let's check our faith attitude. So when life hits, when adversity hits, when sickness comes, when finances are not going the way you want it to go, when so-and-so left you, whatever it is, are you going to continue trusting God? He wants to give you favor. You don't have to say, God, I need a favor. Will you do this for me? He wants to do it. He's waiting for you to ask him. He's waiting for you to activate your faith. He's waiting on you to surrender and get out of the way so that he could come in and flood you with his grace, flood you with his mercy. Yes. Love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I'm not going to read chapter 40, but basically, Joseph is able to continue interpreting dreams. Okay. So let's see. So he's interpreting dreams for the cupbearer. And let's see. And the baker. So the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, both dreamed a dream in the same night. So he goes on to be able to interpret dreams. And then Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, he had a dream. And no one was able to interpret his dream. And then let's see. But Joseph was able to interpret it. So let's see. Let me pick up on. Okay, so the cupbearer is able to tell Pharaoh that Joseph can interpret his dreams. And it says in verse 13 on chapter 41, and just as he interpreted the dreams for us, so it happened. I was restored to my office. Okay. Then Pharaoh sent and called for Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon. And when Joseph shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came to Pharaoh. Okay, this is getting good. All right, so the man at the top now, not Potiphar, but Pharaoh, has a dream. And no one is able to interpret his dreams except Joseph. So they hurry Joseph, they shave him, put him in clean clothes. I'm sure he smelled really bad. They send him to go and talk to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. And I've heard it said about you that you can understand a dream and interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not in me to interpret the dream. God, not I, will give Pharaoh a favorable answer through me. So he's saying it's not me, it's God. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile. And so he goes in and he talks about this crazy dream that he has and what exactly does it mean. And basically, he says that there's going to be a period of time where there's prosperity and an abundance of food. And then there's going to be 7 years of famine and hunger. Okay. So he's telling them he's about to face several years of prosperity, and then it's going to turn and go into a horrible famine where many people are going to die. Okay. And then where do I pick up? Let's see. So now let Pharaoh prepare ahead and look for a man discerning and clear-headed and wise, and set him in charge over the land of Egypt. So basically now that he's able to interpret this dream for Pharaoh, now Pharaoh knows that they're going to go into a famine. So he wants to now have basically a governor come in to prepare for the famine so that they'll be able to make it through, right? So let Pharaoh take action to appoint overseers and officials over the land and set aside 1/5 of the produce of the entire land of Egypt in the 7 years of abundance. So it was going to be 7 years of abundance and then 7 years of famine. So let them gather as a tax all of the 1/5 of the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under the direction and authority of Pharaoh, and let them guard the food in the cities. That food shall be put in storage as a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine and hunger. So basically, because Joseph was able to interpret that dream, Pharaoh now puts him in charge. So good. God is so good. So now the plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all of his servants. So Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find a man like this? A man equal to Joseph, in whom is the divine spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since your God has shown you all there is no one as discerning and clear-headed and wise as you are." Hey, how's it going? Let's see. "You shall have charge over my house, and all my people shall be governed according to your word, and pay respect to you with reverence, submission, and obedience. Only in matters of the throne will I be greater than you in Egypt." So good. Then Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and dressed him in official vestments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in his second chariot, and runners proclaimed before him, "Attention, bow the knee," and he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Though I am Pharaoh, yet without your permission shall no man raise his hand to do anything or set his foot to go anywhere in all the land of Egypt. All classes of people shall submit to your authority." So his dream that he had when he was much younger, that he shared with his brothers, happened. It came to pass. I mean, how cool is that? I love this. So he had been betrayed by his brothers. He had been set up by Potiphar's wife. He was in prison, yet he found favor with God and with the warden of the prison. He always found favor wherever he went because he was faithful in the little things and in every single step leading up to this moment. He was faithful and he had a faithful attitude. Now, this is where it really, really just gets so good. I mean, it's already great, but okay. So let's see. They make it through the 7 years of abundance. And then let me find it. He has some children. Okay, so when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried out to Pharaoh for food. And Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph and do whatever he says to you." So when the famine was spread over all the land, Joseph opened up all the storehouses and sold surplus grain to the Egyptians, and the famine grew extremely severe in the land of Egypt. So in the 7 years of abundance, they were able to collect enough grain to be able to last through the famine. And so the famine hit, and of course, everybody's freaking out. Oh my gosh, what do we do? And Pharaoh's like, go to Joseph. Go to Joseph and do whatever he says to do. So the people of all countries came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain because the famine was severe over all the known earth. Now, when Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you staring at one another in bewilderment and not taking action?" So that's Joseph's father, right? We're going back now to Joseph's father, Jacob. And so he's with Joseph's brothers, and they're in the famine, and he's like, "Why are you all just sitting around doing nothing? Wake up," right? And so he said, "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. So go down there and buy some grain for us so that we may live and not die of starvation." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, which was Joseph's younger brother, with his brothers, for he said, "I am afraid that some harm or injury may come to him." Because he remembered what happened the last time Joseph was with his brothers. So the sons of Israel came to Egypt to buy grain along with the others who were coming, for famine was in the land of Canaan also. Now Joseph was the ruler over the land, and he was the one who sold grain to all the people of the land. And Joseph's half-brothers came and bowed down before him. Hello? Remember that dream that he dreamt when he was much younger, that his brothers would bow down to him? It happened. So they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them. But hiding his identity, he treated them as strangers and spoke harshly to them. He said to them, "Where have you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come with a malicious purpose to observe the undefended parts of our land." But they said to him, "No, my lord, for your servants have only come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." Yet he said to them, "No, you have come to see the undefended parts of our land." So basically he's saying, no, I don't trust you. Why are you here? But they said, "Your servants are 12 brothers in all, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. Please listen. The youngest is with our father today, and one is no longer alive." Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. In this way you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here." So he's telling them he's not gonna give them anything until the younger brother comes. "Send one of you back home and let him bring your brother here, while the rest of you remain confined, so that your words may be tested, to see whether there is any truth in you and your story. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, certainly you are spies." Then Joseph put them all in a prison for 3 days. Now Joseph said to them on the 3rd day, "Do this and you may live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined in your place here in prison. But as for the rest of you, Go, carry grain for the famine in your households. But bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified and you will not die." And they did so. And they said to one another, "Truly, we are guilty regarding our brother Joseph." So here they are remembering now, oh my gosh, we're put in prison. Maybe we're being paid back because of what we did to our brother Joseph. And they don't know that it's really Joseph. I told you this is better than a soap opera. And they said to one another, "Truly, we are guilty regarding our brother Joseph, because we saw the distress and anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us to let him go. Yet he would not listen to his cries, so this distress and anguish has come on us." Hello from Los Angeles. How are you? Thanks for being here. Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you, do not sin against the boy?" And you would not listen. Now the accounting for his blood is required of us, for we are all guilty of his death. Remember, Reuben is the one who wanted to save his life. They did not know that Joseph understood their conversation, because he spoke to them through an interpreter. He turned away from his brothers and left the room and wept. He wept. Blessings to you as well. He turned away from his brothers and left the room and wept. Then he returned and he talked with them and took Simeon from them and bound him in front of them to be kept as a hostage in Egypt. Then Joseph gave orders privately that their bags be filled with grain, and that every man's money used to pay for the grain be put back in his sack, and that provisions be given to them for the journey. And so this was done for them. They loaded their donkeys with grain and left from there. And at the lodging place, as one of them opened his sack to feed his donkey, he saw his money in the opening of his sack. And he said to his brothers, "My money has been returned. Here it is in my sack." And their hearts sank, and they were afraid and turned, trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they came to Jacob, their father, in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them, saying, "The man who is the Lord of the land spoke harshly to us and took us for spies of the land." But we told him, "We are honest men. We are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no longer alive, and the youngest is with our father today in the land of Canaan." And the man, the Lord of the country, said to us, "By this test, I will know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me and take grain for your starving households and go. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I will know that you are not spies, but that you are honest men. Then I will return your imprisoned brother back to you, and you may trade and do business in the land." Now, when they emptied their sacks, every man's bundle of money paid to buy the grain was in their sack. When they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. They were afraid. Jacob, their father, said to them, "You have bereaved me by causing the loss of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and you would take Benjamin from me. All these things are working against me." Then Reuben spoke to his father, "You may put my 2 sons to death if I do not bring Benjamin back to you. Put him in my care, and I will return him to you." But Jacob said, "My son shall not go down to Egypt with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If any harm or accident should happen to him on the journey you're taking, then you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol, the place of the dead, in sorrow." So basically, Joseph now is like testing them, and I don't want to say like having fun, kind of like, you know, messing with their heads a little bit, but he is. He is. And so now the famine was very severe in the land. And it happened that when the families of Jacob's sons had finished eating all of the grain which they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go again and buy us a little food." So let me fast forward to, let's see. They stood to the mountain street. Okay, so Joseph, he keeps Simeon, or Simeon, however you say that, the older brother, and then he asks that Benjamin comes back with them. And so the father is very upset because he's like, if you take Benjamin and if he dies like Joseph died, then it's going to end up killing me, basically. So the brothers return with Benjamin. And it says in verse 16, chapter 43, when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Bring the men into the house and kill an animal, make a meal ready, for the men will dine with me at noon." So the man did as Joseph said and brought the men to Joseph's house. The men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house expecting the worst. Remember, they found money in their sacks of grain. So they're like, what's going on? Is he testing us? Why is this happening? So they're afraid. So they approached the steward of Joseph's house and talked with him at the entrance of the house and said, "Oh, my lord, we indeed came down here the first time to buy food. And when we arrived at the inn, we opened our sacks, and there was the money which he had paid for in grain in full, returned in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back this time. We have also brought down with us additional money to buy food. We do not know who put our money back in our sacks." But the steward encouraged them and said, "Peace be to you. Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has miraculously given you treasures in your sacks. I already had your money, which you paid to us." Then he brought Simeon out to them. Then the steward brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed the dust off their feet, and he gave their donkeys feed. So they prepared the present for Joseph before his arrival at noon, for they had heard that they were to eat a meal there. When Joseph came home, they brought into the house to him the present of tribute which they had with them and bowed to the ground before him. Hey, Ashley. So again, the brothers are bowing down to Joseph. What happened in Joseph's dream? Hello. They bowed down before him. He asked them about their well-being. He said, "Is your old father well, of whom you spoke? Is he still alive?" And they answered, "Your servant, our father, is in good health. He is still alive." And they bowed down their heads before Joseph in respect. So Joseph got to find out that his father is still alive. And he looked up and he saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's only other son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me?" And Joseph said, "God be gracious to you and show you favor, my son." Then Joseph hurried out of the room because his heart was deeply touched over his brother, and he sought privacy to weep. So he entered his chamber and he wept there. So Benjamin was his brother from the same mom as Joseph. So there was a special connection there. Then he washed his face and he came out, restraining himself, said, "Let the meal be served." So the brothers still don't know that it's Joseph and that he's alive. Okay, I love the suspense in this. So the servants served Joseph by himself in honor of his rank, and his brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because according to custom, the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews, for that is loathsome to the Egyptians. Now, Joseph's brothers were seated by the steward before him, in the order of their birth, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another in astonishment, because so much was known about them. Joseph selected and sent portions to them from his own table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. So they feasted and drank freely and celebrated with him. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, "Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's grain money in the mouth of the sack. Put my personal cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest with his grain money." And the steward did as Joseph had told him. And as soon as morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. When they had left the city and were not yet far away, Joseph said to his steward, "Get up, follow after the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid evil to us for good paid to you?'" So again, he's testing them. It's crazy. "Is this not my Lord's drinking cup, and the one which he uses for divination? You have done a great and unforgivable wrong in doing this." So it's like he's setting them up. So the steward overtook them, and he said these words to them. They said to him, "Why does my Lord speak these things? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Please remember the money which we found in the mouths of our sacks we have brought back to you from the land of Canaan. Is it likely then that we would steal silver or gold from your master's house? With whomever of your servants your master's cup is found, let him die, and the rest of us will be my Lord's slaves." And the steward said, "Now let it be as you say. He with whom the cup is found will be my slave, but the rest of you shall be blameless." Then every man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack, confident the cup would not be found among them. The steward searched, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes in grief, and after each man had loaded his donkey again, they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there, and they fell to the ground before him. Joseph spoke harshly to them. "What is this thing you have done? Do you not realize that such a man as I can indeed practice divination and foretell everything you do with outside the knowledge of it?" So Judah said, "What can we say to my Lord? What can we reply? Or how can we clear ourselves, since God has exposed the sin and guilt of your servants? Behold, we are my Lord's slaves, the rest of us as well as he with whom the cup is found." But Joseph said, "Far be it from me that I should do that. But the man in whose hand the cup has been found, he will be my servant. And as for the rest of you, get up and go in peace to your father." Then Judah approached him and said, "Oh, my Lord, please let your servant say a word to you in private, and do not let your anger blaze against your servant, for you are equal to Pharaoh." My Lord asked his servants, saying, "Have you a father or brother?" We said to my Lord, "We have an old father and a young brother, Benjamin, the child of his old age. Now his brother Joseph is dead, and he alone is left of the 2 sons born of his mother, and his father loves him." Then you said to your servants, "Bring him down to me that I may actually see him." But we said to my Lord, "The young man cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father will die." You said to your servants, "Unless your youngest brother comes with you, you shall not see my face again." So when we went back to your servant, my father, we told him what my Lord had said. Our father said, "Go back to Egypt and buy us a little food." But we said, "We cannot go down to Egypt. If our youngest brother is with us, then we will go down there, for we were sternly told that we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us." Your servant, my father, said to us, "You know that my wife Rachel bore me only 2 sons, and 1 son went out from me, and I said, 'Surely he is torn to pieces,' and I have not seen him since." If you take this one also from me, and harm or an accident happens to him, you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol in sorrow. Now therefore, when I come to your servant my father, and the young man is not with us, since his life is bound up in the young man's life, when he sees that the young man is not with us, he will die, and your servant will bring the gray hair of your servant our father down to Sheol in great sorrow. For your servant became security for the young man to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then let me bear the blame before my father forever. Now therefore, please let your servant Judah remain here instead of the youth, to be a slave to my lord, and let the young man go home with his brothers. How can I go to my father if the young man is not with me? For fear that I would see the tragedy that would overtake my elderly father if Benjamin does not return. So the oldest brother is saying, please take me as a servant rather than Benjamin, because I cannot return to my father without Benjamin, because my father will die of basically heartbreak. Now, finally, Joseph cannot control himself any longer in front of all of those who attended him, and he called out, have everyone leave me. So no man stood there when Joseph revealed himself to his brothers. Joseph wept aloud, and the Egyptians who had just left him heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard of it. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Finally revealed himself to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless, for they were stunned and dismayed by the fact that they were in Joseph's presence. Wow. And Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they approached him, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me ahead of you to save lives and preserve our family. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are still 5 more years in which there will be no plowing and harvesting. God sent me to Egypt ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on the earth and to keep you alive by a great escape. So now it was not you who sent me here. You, my brothers, thought that you were getting rid of me. You thought you had a plan. No, God had a plan. God went before you. You meant destruction, but God had a plan. Woo, that's so good. Oh my God, that's so good. I just can't help but think, when I was in treatment and the enemy thought that he got me. He thought, oh yes, finally Christine's family is destroyed. She's lost her boys. For sure, she now is going to be so depressed and suicidal, and I'm going to prevail, and addiction's going to take her for good. But no. God had a plan. God had a plan, and he has a plan for you, my friend. He has a plan for you. So we're just wrapping up now. So now it was not you who sent me here, but it was God. And he made me a father to Pharaoh and the Lord of all his household and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and tell him, your son Joseph says this to you. God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me and do not delay. You shall live in the land of Goshen, the best pasture land of Egypt. And you shall be close to me, you and your children and your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. So now Joseph is saying, bring my father to me, and all of you and all of your wives, all of your children, bring them here, and I am going to give you the best of the best. Whew. Redemption, grace, it's so beautiful. And there I will provide for you, and I will sustain you, so that you and your household and all that are yours may not become impoverished, for there are still 5 years of famine to come. Look, Your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that I am speaking to you personally in your language and not through an interpreter. Now you must tell my father of all my splendor and power in Egypt and of everything you have seen, and you must hurry and bring my father down here." Then he embraced his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. He kissed all his brothers and wept on them, and afterward his brothers talked with him. When the news was heard in Pharaoh's house that Joseph's brothers had come, it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this, load your animals and return to the land of Canaan without delay. And get your father and your households and come to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat, the finest produce of the land. Now you, brothers of Joseph, are ordered by Pharaoh, do this. Take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Do not be concerned with your goods, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours." Then the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the command of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions for the journey. To each of them Joseph gave changes of clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothing. To his father he sent the following: 10 male donkeys loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and provision for his father. So he sent his brothers away, and as they departed, he said to them, "See that you do not quarrel on the journey about how to explain this to our father." So they went up from Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to Jacob their father, and they said to him, "Joseph is still alive. He's still alive, and indeed he is ruler over the land of Egypt." But Jacob was stunned, and his heart almost stopped beating because he did not believe them. When they told him everything that Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Jacob received. And Israel, Jacob, said, "It is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." Oh my gosh, that is such a good story of redemption, of forgiveness, of grace, mercy. And when life does not go as planned, stay faithful no matter what, because God has an ultimate plan. Remember, the last video I talked about our list and ripping up our list, because we have many plans. We have many plans in our heart, but it is God's plan that prevails. So my friend, whatever you are going through, if you are in the pit right now, remain faithful. Do not give up. Sometimes those things happen to get us moving. I was given the gift of desperation, and things had to happen for me to finally say, okay, it's finally too painful. Something has to change. Something has to change. And so I finally surrendered, and I said, "God, I don't want to do it my way. My list is not even close to what you have planned for me." So I surrendered, and I said, "Have your way." And it was one day at a time, one step at a time. It was not easy. And my friend, your journey is not going to be easy. Anything that is worth, anything of value, takes effort, hard work, sacrifices, and blind faith. So do not give up. Do not give up. Do not give up. If you are in the pit right now, do not give up. That pit is going to serve a purpose. Your mess is going to be your platform on which you stand up and show others how good God is. My addiction, all the pain, all the suffering, all of the heartache, I now stand on that to show others what is possible and how good God is. I can look back behind me all the years and see that He is faithful. And I know and believe that He is able, no matter what comes my way, no matter what adversity comes my way. God is faithful. He is a good, good Father. I know this was a really long video, but I had to read, and it was so good. I just couldn't help myself. But I hope that this message blessed you. I hope that you were able to at least catch bits and pieces of it. And I hope that it spoke to you. If this message blessed you in any way, I'm asking you for a favor to give it a like, comment, and share this out, because somebody else needs to hear this message. Somebody is in the pit that needs to hear this message. Somebody is stuck and needs to hear this message. Someone is suicidal and wants to give up, and they need to hear this message. So I'm asking you to please, if you feel it in your heart, please share this out. Please share this out. I know it's not for everybody. I know not everyone has the same beliefs, but I know that somebody needs to hear this message. It might not be for you, but it might be for somebody else. So thank you so much for sticking with me if you're still here. And I appreciate all the messages. I appreciate all of the interaction, the comments, and most of all, I appreciate those of you who privately reach out to me on a daily basis and share some of the most heart-wrenching stories. And I'm praying for you. I'm here for you. If you need anything, please, whatever platform you're watching this on, you can reach out to me, or you can check out my website, christinehmoore.com. You can also email me at christinemore155@gmail.com. And I check all of my messages. I respond to every single one of them. And I look forward to being able to help you in your recovery journey. And I will go ahead and end this because we're like well over an hour now. So again, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. And I will see you guys in the next live. Bye for now.